Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about the Double Strike Crucible mod, which gives you Soul Eater for 20 seconds, and this is pretty much just a basic Double Strike build. However, I'm using the Voidforge, scaling the flat damage that I gain through the Bloodfest, so I'm scaling life a bit. It's not very high life, but it is enough to get enough damage out of it. Normally when I play Soul Eater builds, it's usually around the Soulfest belt and using Flask to gain long Soul Eater buff, but those builds tend to have like really bad damage without any souls. They can get like over 1 minute Soul Eater duration and ramp up crazy amount of souls and then get damage, but I never really played like the other way around, using like a normal build and then adding Soul Eater on top. So this build, actually while leveling I tried the helmet modifier or the same modifier on the helmet for 50% chance to get Soul Eater. Don't use it, don't bother with that, that is so annoying, and like killing a rare monster 8 times in a row and not getting a Soul Eater is just so frustrating. So go for the 100% chance to get Soul Eater when you kill a rare or unique enemy. My Soul Eater lasts a bit more than 20 seconds, and I'm not just stealing souls, I'm also stealing enemy buffs with the Inspired Landing, but you can, instead of Inspired Landing, you can use Behead support, which also works. Now, in general, I would say this build is kind of weird. It feels slow and sluggish, and the clear speed doesn't feel that great, but then once you get some buffs and souls, it feels very fast, but still doesn't feel very great clear speed. Ideally, I would want more movement speed and more attack speed, although my weapon has almost 2 attacks per second base, so my weapon couldn't really get much faster. So the clear speed is not too amazing, but it can actually, even without any souls, it can deal with guardians. I haven't actually died many times, only died 4 times and I'm level 92. 4 deaths at level 92, that's not bad. I don't know how to explain it. It just doesn't die very often, but it doesn't feel very tanky. Although it is using evasion, grace, suppression, running petrified blood as well, running temporal chain with the blasphemy, which doesn't really add all that much. And this is Slayer, by the way, with the Slayer's Overleech, which is a bit wasted because I'm still running Petrified Blood. Now, to extend my Soul Eater duration a bit, normally you would do the Self-Curse with the Temporal Chain to extend the duration, but this time I didn't do that at all. But there's still one item that kind of does that, which is Solstice Vigil. Shaper's presence causes effects on you and nearby allies to expire 20% slower. So it is pretty much just like having temporal chain on you with no increases to curse effect and no reductions. And it synergizes well because whenever you kill a rare or unique, you also get this one and you get a Soul Eater. Now the Soul Eater cannot be refreshed. If it could, you would pretty much have permanent infinite Soul Eater, and that would be broken. So it cannot be refreshed, it has to expire, and it feels so bad once you experience the speed and then suddenly lose all the speed. It feels so bad, it's like an extra slow. Now, the tricky thing about Double Strike, the Double Strike does get a lot of flat damage against bleeding enemies, but you cannot bleed with Voidforge, because Voidforge does deal no non-elemental damage. So you cannot inflict bleed. Now, if you could, and I'm gonna tell you how you can, if you could, you would get a lot of damage, because Voidforge gain 700% of weapon physical damage as extra damage of a random element. So I'm also using Trinity to get a lot of elemental damage and penetration. There are multiple ways to apply bleed on enemies with this. You could use Varana's March Boots and have minions apply bleed, but you can also weapon swap into some weapon. It doesn't matter really what weapon, you just want a fast weapon, and I guess you want enough accuracy, so make sure that you have enough accuracy. So I went with the Ichimonji, it doesn't have to be, and I'm not sure if Leper's Alm on weapon swap does increase the duration after you weapon swap back, but essentially I weapon swap into Puncture, which is linked to increased duration and unbound elements, and my Puncture bleed lasts for over 20 seconds. So I weapon swap, hit enemy once at least, weapon swap back, and then I gain massive damage for the Double Strike, because the enemies are going to be bleeding for over 20 seconds. And that way I actually get almost 4 million DPS. No souls. This is pretty much minimum damage. 3.7 million is kind of minimum damage, because this is not including any shocks, no souls, or any special buffs that you get, that you steal from enemies. So if, let's say, you shock an enemy, that goes over 4 million DPS. If you add some souls, let's say 20 souls, that's almost 7 million DPS. And during mapping, it's pretty common to see like over 150 souls. So during that time you got 24 million DPS. That's massive. But even if you don't have souls, you still have sort of enough damage to deal with tougher enemies. I wouldn't really do Crucible monsters with this, or at least wouldn't really charge very much. So let's say Frenzy Charges is one conditional buff, which only takes time to get it. Weapon Swap to get the bleed. Shock, just keep hitting. You're gonna roll more lightning damage and you're gonna shock enemies. You can also freeze enemies, it happens pretty often. Because as you can see, the average hit damage is pretty high. But the attack speed is not very great without Soul Eater. I'm not using Multi-Strike because Multi-Strike does not affect Val Double Strike. And Val Double Strike can dish out a lot of damage against bosses. I haven't really done a lot of Guardians or Conquerors, so I can't really tell how it would feel. Like in general, it's not really a bossing build. Because if you are building around Soul Eater, you don't really care about bossing damage. Although you could swap the gloves to the Soul Ascension gloves. However, in my case, I would not have enough intelligence and I would not have enough spell suppression, but you could swap into these gloves and be able to gain Soul Eater against hitting a unique enemy. But many tougher enemies have like longer phases. During those 3 seconds, if you don't hit the enemy again, you lose all souls. Or actually, lose eaten soul. I'm not sure if it is one soul. I think it's all of the souls. But you cannot gain more than one soul per second this way. It would still take a minimum 50 seconds to get up to 50 souls. So it's up to you if you want to use it. I think this league is not really suited for these gloves. The previous league, Sanctum, was really good place to use these gloves because most of the enemies inside Sanctum were unique. If you want more damage, just drop Solstice Vigil and get some kind of other amulet with like elemental damage to attacks, crit multi, get anointment with something that would increase damage, drop the temporal chain completely, and you would gain maybe even more than another 1 million. So the damage can be pretty good even without souls. And you would lose some duration for Soul Eater, but again, depends how you play it. For me, it just felt clunky in the end. The double stack, I just don't have enough, I guess, AoE. Originally, I was as a Slayer, I was taking Impact, which does give increased AoE, and it felt better, but I really wanted more like speed, so I picked up Headsman. One jewel socket I am using for Inspired Learning. It's very convenient place for Inspired Learning in here. Since this is a crit build, I'm taking that. I need accuracy for crit build. I'm taking life, and I'm taking Survivalist for the Evasion Mastery. Not going here, otherwise I would take it in here. But you could also get the additional Frenzy Charge, and this is at level 92. Like overall, I would probably not recommend to play it, or unless you could get a lot more, I don't know, AoE. It just lacks something. I do have extra 2 strike targets, one on the gloves and one on the attack mastery, which is here, and I do get splash from the Tribal Fury. Voidforge is a bit pricey. I think I paid 6 divines for this. It was with all the passives. So it was the Soul Eater, it had 40% attack speed, and that's pretty much it. Essentially just look for the 40% attack speed with less global damage and the Soul Eater. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. The next build I'll probably do a speedy build for fast clear with the Spectral Throw. We'll see how that goes. For now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.